Snuggles. We're so happy you're here today, and we hope that you're having the best day ever. And if you've been enjoying this podcast, make sure to send it to a friend, to rate it 5 stars, and to keep spreading the snuggly love. I brought a really awesome guest today, a beautiful mate that I met from traveling, and I'm so stoked to show him with you guys. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, all Lexi's listeners. My name is Andy, or Andrew Wood. That's my full name. And I'm a guy from Scotland who Lexi and I met. I don't even remember when exactly. When did we meet? Australia. Yeah, she used to be working with one of my friends in a bar, and we all went to the beach one day. And yeah, that's how we all met. We all went for a swim in the ocean together. So she's been a ray of sunshine ever since then on my Instagram account, inspiring me daily with her videos and our talks and our moments of strength and of weakness. So yeah, she's been amazing, and I'm pretty stoked to be here. I've never been on a podcast before, so it's pretty cool.
I'm so excited. It's so funny that actually the first time that we met, it was for her Leia's birthday. And do you remember that?
Not sure I even do. Where were we? Were we out on the town, man?
No, we went to. I came with you guys. It was the first time hanging out with her, and we went to the beach, and then we got
yeah.
We got naked and went in the ocean. It was so fun.
Yeah, well, I do remember that. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. That was like, I remember that day. Yes, it was fun. That was good. It was only 3 of us, 4 of us.
Yeah, it was just us 4.
I remember Leah just running in topless, just screaming, yeah, hands in the air. Yeah.
The first time I've ever done that with other people, so that was fun.
Oh, yeah.
So tell them about your journey over the past 2 years.
So yeah, I've been traveling for 5 years now, remarkably, and I'm finally back where I started in Scotland in a little town called Troon by the beach, and it's currently very windy and rainy outside. I got back about 2 weeks ago, and prior to here, I was in New Zealand, doing lots of amazing things with lots of amazing people, and yeah, learning. You say you find yourself and all the the stuff that people say when you leave home and you explore new places and explore new people, but fuck, it's true, every word of it, I reckon. And if you're definitely trying to explore yourself, trying to open your mind, and that's what I feel is what has happened to me mostly, or up until this point in my life. So I spent most of my time in a little town called Kaikoura, which is on the east coast of New Zealand, just above Christchurch. And there I was learning how to surf and working a job that was incredibly, it was landscaping, it was outdoors, but the employer was kind enough to let us work whenever we wanted, pretty much. And if the surf was good, we could go to the beach and give them a text and say, I'm not going to be there today, mate, so we're just going to spend the day at the beach. And yeah, we would it was a dreamy time, and I missed it a lot. And had a little car there, a little van sort of thing that had a bed in the back, and if the day was good, then I could just have a toothbrush in the glove box at all times, and I could just brush my teeth and get into bed. So yeah, amazing. Prior to New Zealand, it was Australia for a little year. That's when I met you guys, and it was a fast year. I mean, New Zealand was like 3 years, and that went really fast, but that felt like enough time to integrate into a society, and especially spending so much time in one town, you really get to know the locals, and working with like a lot of them, you end up going to dinner with the families and stuff, and I found myself going to church, which is something that I never really see myself doing until I worked with a certain guy who was Levi O'Connor, understood, who was he owned a seal kayak company, seal company, and I became a kayak tour guide with him, and he took me to church, and we ate great food, and I got to hear some like incredible stories, testimonies from people in church, and that was always a part of my life that I hadn't explored, and I never thought I would. I was always very skeptical towards anything religious, and scared that it was trying to pull me in some malicious way. But I found quite the opposite, and I haven't become, I wouldn't say any more religious from it, but I've certainly opened my mind to why people are religious and why faith is very important to a lot of people, it's definitely had moments in my life when I've looked at the sky, and when there's no other place to ask for help, it's like, well, in case, I'm going to ask, So yeah, it's been amazing.
Such a cool journey, and you've done so many cool things over the past few years. And tell us how you are.
Tell them what, sorry?
How old you are?
How old? I'm 26 years old.
And so when did you started when you were 21?
Yeah, yeah, I was 21 when I went. I flew to Thailand initially and stayed in Thailand for about a month. And I was planning on doing that and then going straight to Australia. But I saved a little bit extra money than I thought I would because I was at home and I was with a girl for a few months longer than I thought I was going to stick around Scotland for, and that kind of made me stay. And so yeah, I saved a little few extra pennies, and then I got dumped, so which sucked. But I had that extra money, so yeah, I managed to explore. I went to Cambodia and Laos, and Vietnam, and did some incredible things for like a month each in those countries as well. And drove the length of Vietnam on a motorbike, which was, I think, totally exhilarating and thrilling and hard, very fucking hard, and scary at points. But yeah, another part of the journey. Yeah, this is the first time I really like spoke about all these things. I always feel a bit weird telling the story.
Why is that?
I think it's that I don't know if it's like the way it is here in Scotland, but it's kind of hard. You don't really, if you're a tall poppy, you get cut pretty fast, even by your friends, and your friends are supportive, but they're also, you're making fun of each other and throwing digs around, and it's all fun and it's a good laugh, but at the same time, you do doubt yourself in a lot of ways, and you think, oh, okay, well, I'm not meant for anything greater. But I always knew that I wanted to explore the world, and the world was open to me. My mum and dad always said that from a young age, that when they were younger, they didn't have the option nearly as much, to jump on a plane for cheap and fly literally to the other side of the world, for a couple $1,000 and then hang out and work and just, be alive over there, which is just a crazy ability that we have now.
Mm. Yeah, we're so grateful for that, and that we took those leaps, because it's not easy, because everyone talks about doing it, but there's not that many that actually do it. So I'm really
I
proud.
think, it's a tricky thing. Definitely. Yeah. And it's the weirdest thing though, you come home and people are like amazed by it. People are really like astonished that they say things to you like, oh, I'm just not that type of person. Or, oh, I want to do that, but I'm not that type of person. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Hey, if you want to do it, go fucking do it. It's like, it's not that hard, man. I've never understood that mentality. Yeah, it's like, man. And I remember people when I was saving for a few years, and I was saying it, I'm going, I'm going. And I knew it was going, but it got to the point where it was talk. A lot of people were like, Andy, man, you've been saying it for too long. And that was the moment. That was the year that I booked it. It was like a month later, I was like, right, this is it. Got to do it then. Because I was starting to, I felt that in myself. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm actually really scared to actually, when am I doing it? I didn't have an actual date set. And yeah, now that it's all not done with necessarily, but that chapter is wrapped up, it feels like. And now that I'm back here, it's like, it's a blink of an eye. And I think that's like the biggest reason to go do it, because that was 5 years of my life and everyone else's lives, but their lives have stayed more or less the same. That's the craziest thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always trips me out. It's like you go back and
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Things change, and you think like you're like, oh, if I leave, like blah blah blah, but really you go back and it's pretty much all the same, like you said, and that's a great remembrance for people who want to try something like that. And I just recommend everyone do it. Just do it. Fuck the job. The job will be there when you're back.
Oh yeah.
So will your family be. But speaking of that, why did you come home?
There was a few reasons. My brother and my sister-in-law, they had a new little baby, Ivan, a baby Ivan. You never see an Ivan in Scotland, so that's like hilarious. And they got it from that show Vikings, Ivan the Boneless. I was like, my God, James. So that was one of the big reasons to come home and meet my new niece, my new nephew, sorry. But I've got a niece and she's like 5, and she was at the point, or she's at the point now, she's 5 years old, she started school and she's starting to remember things, and I want to be part of her life as well, So there's that element. And then my dad got out of the blue, he got sick, he got cancer, which is it's like people say like you remember where you've been or where you were in a moment where you get like really bad news, and that's like the first time that's ever happened in my life, because our family's been incredibly lucky with health and still have all my grandparents, and so we haven't had any even risk of death in the family, no terrible accidents, nothing scary in that way, nothing towards mortality anyway. And yeah, and then I got the phone call from my brother, you know, and it was on the way to work. And I'll never forget, I was driving to work up the coast, you know, and past the beautiful ocean where the waves and stuff were, and the surf was looking good, but you know, I was like, oh, I gotta go to work, blah, blah, blah. It was like the most beautiful day. And I drove past this little turn off point, and I seen this girl's car who I had a big crush on at the time. And she left town and she was coming back. And so I was like, oh, I'll stop and I'll put some flowers on her, a little, you know, windshield wiper. And then I'll take off and she'll know that was me because I'd done it before. You know, it was all this little fun, you know, it was like a romantic idea in my head. And so I drove away all happy and I drove to work and I got there. And then, yeah, my brother was calling me, which is like rare. My brother and I, you know, we're close, but we don't call each other every day and talk about our feelings much to each other. Like we got each other's back kind of thing, but it's, yeah. And yeah, so that was strange. So I called him straight back and you know that way you just hear someone's voice and it's like you just know something's wrong. And yeah, I was like, James, just tell me, man, just tell me. And then I could hear him breaking up and he was like, Dad's got cancer. And yeah, and I'm so grateful I was the only one at work on the day. I was standing there in the sunlight in the most beautiful place, feeling the worst way possible, you know, and that's such evidence that it doesn't matter where you are, you know, it's bad news is bad news if you're in fucking heaven, you know. And so yeah, I was like, right, well, you know, what is it? This and that, and the unknowns, lots of unknowns. You know, he's got lumps the size of his fist in his stomach and around his liver and all these different spots, and it was just like, fuck, you know, he's gonna die. Great. And yeah, no history of cancer in the family. And then went back to my car and had a little pipe and I smoked up a little bit and I was just like, this day sucks so badly. I was crying, tears run down my face. And I was like, right, well, I'm not going to work. I can't face it. I was going to jump in a swimming pool and start grinding concrete in the dust. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm going surfing. And I swear to God, you know, I met a guy out there and he told me that surfing was going to change my life in ways that I never understood. And I'd been doing it for like 6 months prior to that point. So I was decent enough to actually feel the wave, you know, and actually enjoy it. And yeah, I drove to the little car park next to the surf, you know, and it was like the road and then the railway track. Again, I was pulling on my wetsuit and I was breaking down. I had never felt anything like it in my life. I felt like I was literally like a mirror just getting cracks in it, you know. I just felt like I was literally coming apart. And then I turned around and this girl was there, you know, the girl who had put my flowers on her windscreen. And it was beautiful. It was the most beautiful moment. And you know, and she was just there. And it felt like she caught me, you know, it felt really like very emotional, very beautiful. And we went surfing and sat out in the ocean and tell you what, that day would have been a lot harder if it wasn't for that. But yeah, so from that point, waited for diagnoses and whatnot. And then yeah, thankfully it's the type of cancer that's treatable and it's curable, they think. But my dad's actually in hospital right now, unfortunately, because chemotherapy affects, you know, your immune system, takes away all your white blood cells. So yeah, he's battling that more than anything else right now. He's battling not having an immune system more than cancer right now. It's a complicated thing, but I've hardly really been processing it. You know, it's been interesting. It's suddenly real now that I'm at home and I'm living in the same house as my dad, and I can see what he look. You know, when I got out of the airport, then he's skinny, bald. He's just like he looked like a different guy, you know, and that was freaky. And I've seen him on FaceTime and stuff, but it's still different when you hug someone and you feel different, you know, they feel sick. And yeah, I never thought I'd experience that. Or you just don't see it coming, totally blindsides you. But yeah, I mean, that was the biggest reason to come home. And you know, my dad and I mean, I love my dad, but we've got a complicated, not super complicated relationship, but it always felt like a bit of detachment there. You know, I can't talk to my dad about everything the same way I can talk to my mum necessarily about more kind of deeper emotional things or whatnot. But you know, he's always been there and he's been a great dad and he's taught me a lot. But yeah, it was heartbreaking, you know, and especially for my mum. Mum was that was the hardest thing to see when, you know, side by side, and you just see you see your parents at their weakest. You know, that's a horrible thing. But I suppose, you know, that was the biggest reason I came home. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was heavy stuff.
That's good. We have to talk about it. Like you said, like when we don't talk about it, then we don't know what to do in those moments. And it's important to talk about death. And as society, we're so avoidant of it, but it's inevitable. Like, we need to become more comfortable with it, even though it's an uncomfortable thing. And yeah, it's that feeling of like, yeah, when you see someone you love sick, it's so hard. And like like you said, all the unknowns and all the thoughts that come with it. And then saying how everyone's affected by it. There's just so many layers to it, and it's really hard to ride the journey of what's to come because you really don't know what's going to happen, and you can try to stay hopeful, but not all times you can be hopeful, and there's just a lot to it. So, has your family been pretty open about like talking about it and talking about the possibilities of death and things like that, or how has it been?
Yeah, I mean, oh my dad from the first day one, man, my dad was so morbid. He was he was on the phone. He's like, "Ah, son, take care of your mum when I'm gone." You know, it was like, "Oh my gosh, dad." I thought it may have been more about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to blah blah blah. But yeah, I was like, Dad, well, you know what? This is part of your journey, Dad, and this is, you just got to give it everything you got. Win or lose, like, it's not the end of you as far as I'm concerned. You're going to the next plane, to the next plateau of whatever we are, the next state of consciousness. Once you leave your body, in my opinion, you're going somewhere else, and we're not a religious family in that sense, but we believe in something else. This is a step to something, a stepping stone to something else. But yeah, I mean, he's been the most philosophical that he's ever been. I think certainly he's comfortable with it. I think it's interesting though, because at the same time he's getting better, and there's a lot of like reliance on people you don't know, on doctors and experts and all these chemicals, and all these different medicines. He's taking 26 pills a day, which is just like a lot of pills. And yeah, it's just things and I'm relying on knowledge of people who have studied this stuff and know what they're talking about. And it's that's a very haunting feeling that you don't, if none of that was there, what would you do? What are you relying on? Just hope, I guess. And yeah, hoping for a miracle there, but all of this stuff it seems to be doing the job, I guess, but nonetheless, just continuously scary. And the fact that it can flip, 360 at any point, or 120, I should say, 180. And yeah, it can just start going the other way again, which is like really freaky. As much progress as there has been, it can suddenly jump back the way it has now. And now he's in hospital, and now the future is unknown once again. Yeah.
And so, what are some things that you've been doing? Like, how have you been noticing yourself avoiding grief?
Have I been noticing myself avoiding grief? I've been going for lots of walks. When I was in New Zealand, I was smoking a lot of weed, probably more so than I ever had before. I was really medicating myself with that. And I always remember a friend on the ski season, actually, in O'Cooney when you came. I remember we were on a chairlift together, and he was just an Australian dude called Taylor. And he told me that how he was kind of in a place with weed at that point where he's just smoking it. He was like, man, I'm in such a dark place with this. And I was like, man, nah, weed's not that. You can't ever be there with that. Like weed helps you, weed's this, weed's that. And it's funny how you get those ideas of it, but then when something bad happens and you kind of are smoking it leisurely, how it becomes more of a numbing agent, and it becomes easier to kind of just like get lost in your thoughts and your imagination a bit more than facing reality. And that's certainly what it was, I think. And even now, I mean, I still feel partially numb to it, and I think that's because the prognosis is good. If it was like a terminal prognosis, I think that would be more of it would be more emotional every day. But because I feel like, I didn't have to worry so much actually because it's getting better. But then I know that's kind of foolish because it can all turn around. Yeah. And that's the scariest kind of thing. It's sudden, and sudden changes, sudden switches. And it's not even, I feel like, honestly, I feel like I feel all right with it as much as I can be. I don't feel too emotional over it. When I was doing your yoga class the other day, I felt like, there was some tears coming, and I knew that's why it was. And I was like, man, this is helping me for sure. But it's more for other people that you really feel for, I really feel scared from my mum, because they have a plan, they have ideas of what they want to do with retirement and stuff. And my dad's almost at that age where he's been working his whole life to do those things, and he, want to go to Greece and have holiday homes and all this, want to spend 4 months a year in a certain country and all this stuff. And suddenly, and the thought that that can just all be taken away for no particular reason is the freakiest thing. And that's life, I guess.
Oh, sadly it is. And it doesn't make it easy, even though we know that truth.
It's power. Well, it makes you wonder why we don't all kind of live to our maximum, though, and we don't all express ourselves the way we want to, and we don't all live exactly the way we want to, and tell the people we think who are beautiful in the street, tell them they're beautiful, and like those people, moments like that, when you let things pass by and you wonder what ifs, all those little moments that you regret. And when something like that happens, I think it kind of puts it all in perspective. And it's definitely that, to me, that's kind of how I've taken it. I've been like, all right, I'm doing it right, because I could be dead tomorrow,
That's it. That's why my first death was when I was 21, I think. Yeah. And I've experienced 4 more since then.
Wow.
I've had 3 suicides and overdose for people that are all under 25. And then the older one was my old boss, who it was just me and her. She had her own business, and her husband, they had a private plane, and the plane just exploded right when it took off. And so that was an unexpected one too. That was the first death I had. So yeah, like that's exactly what it taught me, though. It's like, why are we worrying about stupid shit? Why am I not? That's why I like just travel and do what brings me joy, because life is so unexpected.
I'm so sorry to hear all that. That's just heavy. It's hard to take. And it makes you question, why am I here? What am I doing that's any better than that? Those people who've, they've had a whole life, or as old as ourselves. And you got to think that people see the world relatively in the same way that you do, as a human being, that our consciousness, whatever it is, whatever it feels like, you got to think that that's in everyone else as well. Mm. And suddenly all the years that feels like 26 years to me, feels long enough to actually, have some grasp on what life is. And the memories and the experiences and the feelings and the ups and the downs and all the little things that make up who you are. Someone else has had all that, and then suddenly it's gone, literally in a second. And that's it's scary. It's the mortality of life. I mean, it's terrifying, but it's where we're all going eventually, I guess. But
yeah. All right. Well, death is a thing, and it's happening in your life. And I'm just holding you with love and just hoping that it all works out as good as it can. And that I'm really proud of you for being able to, for going home and dealing with those emotions and being there for your family, because it's not easy.
Yeah, well, Lacey, thank you. I wish I could give you a hug, mate. When you said that, I was like,
I know, I love hugs. I wish I could. Oh, one day soon.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, let's just change the subject to something a little lighter. And that would be, you were talking to me earlier about your relationship to women and how that's changed over the years. And so I'd love to go into that a little bit.
All right. Would you just like me to dive in there with something?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope all the words that come out of my mouth from this point forward are good ones. What I was saying, stupid. Okay, yeah. So what we were discussing before, in terms of how certainly in the public eye it has been more so lately. The last few years, I've certainly learned a lot more, it seems, about respecting women. And even lately, there was a chick who, got killed in a park down in England. And it's this continual thing where women are scared to be comfortable around men in public places. And in general, and I am a man, I consider myself a man, and the fact that any female person could be uncomfortable or scared, just in my presence, just because of that's the fact that I'm a man, that's a reason to be scared of a person, or just, or to even like go along with conversation, or to be scared of expressing opinion, just because that I'm a man and you're a woman, and that could, potentially be dangerous for someone to say anything, like that kind of. And I've had moments like that in the past, and I'm like, and I've had to like tell people like, I'm really sorry if I'm making you uncomfortable. I don't mean to, like, and I want you to know that you're safe right now, and that I'm never, I'm not going to hurt you in any way, and that's it's a horrible thing to notice when you're talking to somebody, that you might be making them feel like that. But it's also a horrible thing that is so common, and I mean, I've got a lot of female friends, probably more than male actually at the moment, certainly, and I've always kind of clicked more with females. I think just, I don't know, maybe just emotionally, just a little deeper conversations. I'm quite an emotional guy, believe it or not, and yeah, when it comes to sensitive topics, I like to discuss certain things, and a lot of my male friends certainly aren't, yeah, up to chatting about certain things without joking about it, Um, but yeah, I've had a lot of female friends who have really discussed some really, powerful stuff. Like, I mean, I've had a few friends talk to me about, being raped and just like physically and mentally abused, and I had no idea what like gaslighting was. I had no idea that was like what that was till at least like a year ago. And then when I actually had my friend who I was living with on the farm, my friend Jordan, a girl called Jordan, and yeah, yeah, she had a book with her, and we used to like sit there and read pages of it, read it out to each other after shifts on the farm, and I'd be reading a Jordan Peterson book, and she'd be reading this one, and it's a book called Women Don't Owe You Pretty. I believe that's the title, if I remember correctly. It's all multicolored and really beautiful book. Um, but that basically explained what gaslighting was, and how it's like the manipulation that men put on women, generally speaking, and the words that they use. And it was like, and reading some of it, the examples were like, I wish I could remember it all way better, but it made a lot of sense at the time. And the way she was expressing herself to me, I mean, Jordan and Leah, my two best friends in the world, and both women, and I would never want to see them hurt or degraded in any way, and I feel like they have been, in certain. Leah, I don't know so much. I haven't had those kind of conversations with her necessarily, but Jordan certainly by boyfriends, and yeah, and moments, when I've been there and shit's gone down with the boyfriend kind of stuff, and it's like, hey man, are you for real? Um, and I think those are the moments that are really important for someone to actually be there and say something. And it's a damn shame that a woman telling a man that he's wrong quite often isn't enough, that it takes another man to say that to him for him to actually hear it, you know? And that's just incredibly upsetting. And it's, yeah, I can't even, I've been in situations where I'm scared, like if I'm going into like something physical is about to happen with another person, and there might be a fight or whatever, and it's like I can feel that feeling inside myself, like I might get hurt here. But if that's not been common for me, like that's been around the odd aggressive male. But for a woman, that could be, yeah, that could be just going home with the wrong guy, and yeah, it freaks me out to think about it actually, and remembering the stories that they told me, and yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, I've felt that way numerous times, and I've also been mentally and physically abused, and it's really challenging. And like that feeling of never feeling safe is really uncomfortable. And um, m- even being myself, who loves to travel and do things on her own, like I love to be independent, and but half the time it's like, there's always that feeling in the back of my head, or like I just have to be so alert at all times because I'm a woman. And yeah, it's just so uncomfortable that I can't just feel safe, and then I have to have that extra alert on at all times.
It's freaky, especially with traveling. I met a few chicks who were traveling by themselves, and I always remember, we having conversations, and people would always be saying, or like, if someone would be there with a partner, and they would say, "Oh, you're so brave." It's all this idea that's like, it's like a special thing. It's like this, that it's looked upon in that way. That's, that why can't that just be normal? Why can't it be just equally as safe and equally as fine, And that, actually, I was surprised actually out in Southeast Asia that I didn't meet. I mean, I met a few women who were traveling by themselves, and like, I mean, nothing to the extent of actual, anything physically happening. Well, I say that, but I mean like more, extreme things. But certainly there's trains and boats and buses there where, where you get put in like a double bed with someone, just somebody you don't know. And, getting told stories, just guys just throwing an arm around, just copping a feel. And it's just wrong. And it's like, yeah, I don't understand it. And I don't know if it's that it feels like it's down to education, from a young age. It feels like it has to be. Like, how else do you get guys who are like that and guys who aren't like that, Yeah.
Yeah. It's happened to me so many times too. They just feel like they have a right to do that. And I'm like, excuse you, like, don't touch me. And then as a woman, you feel scared to use your voice because they're stronger than you. So you're like, I could be hurt if I use my voice. And so that's why so many times women don't use their voice, or they have used their voice and then that triggers the man. And then it's just like, there's all these things. And so it just keeps this like perpetual cycle of um, allowing that to happen, because most of the time women don't say anything. And I've been in that situation many times where I haven't said anything because I was scared what would happen if I did say something.
Yeah. But
And
those are actually the moments, like I said, those are the moments where I tell you what, and I've said this to chicks before, those are the moments where you do say something though, because that if you embarrass a man, then he'll stop, like in my opinion. I mean, I've always found that, like it's one thing to tell someone off, but if you actually, show them for what they are in front of other people, it's like they become ashamed and then they actually get taught a lesson.
yeah.
Whereas it's doing that, they think, oh, this is all right. This is what I can do. This is my right for some fucking bullshit reason, and it's just not. Oh, it makes me angry. It makes me angry to think about.
Yeah, no, I've definitely now I've learned how to use my voice, and like a very strong voice, but that took time and it took practice and it like took confidence and took being through that situation countless amount of times, like throughout college and traveling and different places everywhere. Even starting in like high school, I remember one time I was at a dance and some guy just grabbed my ass and I was like, excuse you, like what? Like just not even having a conversation with me, just grabbing parts of my body. And anyway, so yeah, so I guess like as a man, how do you make a woman feel safe?
Oh, good question. I think it's about like, especially if I'm attracted to someone and I want to take them out and get to know them, and see where it goes. I think it's definitely initially about environment, of not being in a place that's confining in any way. That certainly that's how I feel about it. I don't want to put someone in it, the slightest inch of what can feel like any sort of pressure. Even if I take say, oh, you want to come to my place and I'll cook you some lunch. That sounds maybe like a nice thing, but it's also being inside a place where no one else is around, and that's potentially dangerous for her, right? And the fact that like, I've done that in the past and I've taken a trip back and I can, and then suddenly been aware of like that they're uncomfortable, and I'm like, shit, let's go outside, let's go for a walk, let's just be out in the open, and stuff like that initially, certainly. But then, like getting to know someone as a friend, even, I think it's just about, just listening, listening to what they're saying and trying to understand, certainly, like I'm not going to understand everything necessarily, but I want to, and trying to, if I can help in any way, I suppose that's what I would do. Making someone feel safe though, it is interesting. I think it's all about building trust, isn't it? It's all about showing someone who I am, showing someone who I am first, instead of giving them the wrong impression, giving some sort of impression it's just not me, being something I'm not. If I can just be completely me, then, yeah. But then I guess people could say that they're being themselves, but themselves as an asshole, I tell you what, like, see, I've been called an asshole in the past, so yeah, it doesn't, not necessarily they don't feel safe, but it doesn't always work. Just, trying to be the nice man, trying to be a nice guy, I guess. But at the same time, that is what you should certainly try to be. I think you want to be as good as you can be and as understanding as you can be. And yeah. And then, and if it comes to a more romantic sense, you know, if you get to that point with someone, then I'd say you're pretty much there, hopefully, you know, like if you built it up from a friendship to whatever it's become. And certainly the most meaningful relationships in my life have been friends first, developed into something else, you know, because by that point you do know someone and you feel so much more comfortable. And I think it is those points as well, you know, if you see the person that you're with under uncomfortable pressure, you know, in maybe a bar or somewhere social where you can see something like that happening, and especially when it's to the person you're with, that's the moment where you have to step up and you have to do something. Because if you do nothing, and it can literally just be, you know, hey man, this person's with me, or and not even necessarily that there's anything negative happening, because people have tapped my shoulder, you know, and said, oh yeah man, she's with me. I'm like, all right, oh sorry bro, sweet man. But it's those little moments where it's like, I think that's just the right thing to do to help someone feel safe, you know, feel protected. And as much as maybe that is becoming, I don't know if it's becoming outdated necessarily, but it's definitely changing the idea that a man should protect a woman. You know, I still hold it. That's how I was raised. You know, I still believe that that is a thing that a man should do if he's capable of protecting a woman in a situation where she can't protect herself, and vice versa. Then, you know, that is my obligation to do so. I think. Trying to sound smart here, it's really hard.
No, you're wonderful. Don't be silly.
Sweating actually.
It's okay to be nervous. You're being truthful.
Well, imagine you have a big female audience, so I wonder. Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I think there's that fine line of like the feminist and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, like what you were talking about, of like, I really love what you said, because I actually haven't even like, I guess, realized that sometimes, I mean, I do know that. I guess I've said that to girlfriends, but yeah, like when they invite you over to your house, I'm like, I don't know if this guy's a serial killer or not. Like, it's my first thought, if I don't know the person, is like, what's he gonna do? You know? And a lot,
Yeah, totally.
like, I would say like 90% of my girlfriends have like mace or pepper spray or something in their purse, or a knife, because we just don't know. And so I love that concept of like really waiting and taking them outside and letting it be in public, and to build that trust slowly. And of course, listening is so good. And yeah, I think also like consent too, like asking, even if you think like things are going in the right direction, like just asking consent, like, can we take this farther? Like, whatever it is, just because consent, I feel like, is not really used a lot. And that's a huge, just like easiest way to make someone feel safe is just by simply asking.
Yeah, totally. You know, and people have laughed at me in the past when I like ask, can I kiss you? And it sounds like kind of goofy and kind of, in the moment it's like, oh, the romantic tension has just been blown away by that. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it's actually like the question that's most appropriate. And but then at the same time, I follow a few different like dating people on Instagram and whatnot, male and female, and they kind of discuss this topic, and they discuss how consent is verbal, but there's also that level, especially when it is, when it's sexual attraction and it's like in the moment and you feel close, and there's a consent of someone being close in your area, you're there and it feels right and it's mutual and you can feel that, right? It's like you don't need words necessarily there. But I think that's where it becomes a little bit kind of complicated maybe, because then it's like, oh shit, I'm here. And I think that's what's confusing for men nowadays. Actually, I think it's very confusing to be at that point and still not know. A lot of guys are still unsure if someone's right here in front of them, touching them, whatever, making it very obvious that they're interested maybe. And yeah, and maybe men are now scared to actually ask. Maybe I think that's probably a good thing, maybe, but I think at the same time you got to learn that balance, where it's fun to have that spontaneity in that moment of like, kissing someone, and it's just like, and it's just the magic of it. And you didn't have to communicate it with words, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that's what you mentioned, is like when people aren't connected to their own intuition, to their own body, and they can't feel in their body, because then you can't really feel in someone else's body. Like I immediately like I can tell like, so quickly how someone's feeling. I can tell if you're closed off, if you're nervous, if you're like no, like pulling away. There's so much body language spoken without words, but I feel like not enough people are connected to themselves, so they can't really be connected to someone else in that way. And so that's when like consent is super, super important. And
Yeah,
also, you don't know, like maybe that person has been sexually abused before. And so just asking like allows them, even if that energy is there, it's still like to some people that could be so important to them, even if like you can feel it between both of you. But um, they could be triggered just because of what's happened in the past. So it's, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It's just, yeah, communication is everything. I think it's a good rule. Just, if there's any doubt, if you feel like, going and making a move, if there's any doubt, that person may not reciprocate, that's when you take a step back and just wait, and wait and see what happens and communicate and, see if see if it's going that way or not. And if it's, yeah, because the longer you wait, the more you're going to know, right? I mean, don't rush things, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you take time and space, and like also another body language thing is like if you're with someone and they're constantly like pulling back, like that's a sign.
Totally. Oh, dude, big time, right? And how many times have you been like in a bar and you've seen some guy trying to kiss someone, they're like, whoa, and he's literally like holding on to her, and it's like, oh my goodness, like fucking yeah. I mean, sometimes, they need a slap. You need to get slapped in the face before they know any better, and that's a freaky thing, because then you literally see how much we're still freaking chimpanzees. It's like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I love this. I love this knowledge. It's so good.
Okay, well, it's time to wrap this up, but I'm so grateful for you and I love you. And I'm so happy that you came and opened your heart and shared everything you did today. And if people want to find you and connect with you and know what you're offering, what are you doing and where are you?
Um, what am I offering right now? I'm actually somewhat of a musician, up and coming, everyone.
He's
I'm
so
trying
good.
to be, yeah. So I play a little bit of guitar, and I'm a I'm a singer songwriter, and yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Andrew from Scotland, all one big word. And I'm going to be posting. I'm going to be making a new page soon with all of the actual music videos on it. For now, it's just little bits and pieces, filtered into my everyday life Instagram sort of thing. But yeah, I'll be creating an authentic music page in the coming days. So hopefully by the time this podcast airs, there'll be a few videos on there for anybody who wants to check it out. They can check it out. Yeah.
Highly recommend. I still love, yeah, you sent me videos of singing me songs. I'm like, my heart. It's so cute. I'm so proud of you for following that and for, yeah, choosing that passion because it's not an easy one necessarily to go for. And there's all these stories, about like how people don't make it and whatever, and just like they let that stop them. And I'm so proud of you for being like, no, this is what lights me up. I see how it impacts people. I'm gonna do it. So yes, I'm proud of
I
you.
think it's the things that are scariest in life that are the ones probably worth pursuing. Because that's the ones you feel, you feel something when you succeed. You're like, fuck, I was terrified of doing that. Now I've done it. I feel like complete bliss and
Mhm.
elation. And yeah, isn't that what we all want to feel? Hell yes.
Yes, always. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexa. This was great. Amazing.